Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Hope you had a good day today. I certainly did. Hello, welcome, welcome. How's everybody doing today? I probably just saw some of you yesterday, but doesn't mean I'm not happy to see you again. Hey, Dion. Hi, Anon. Hello. Hey, Rascal. What's up? Rascal, when are you joining the stream team, my friend? Hey, Toto. Brooke, hi. How's it going? Good to see you. Hey, Inadequate Dev. Welcome, welcome. We are doing the two in a row tonight today. Live yesterday, live again today. Hey, Carmen. Good to hear that, Brooke. Hey, John Poe, Booty. How's it going? I don't know about you all, but I had a good day today. Oh, Real Scotty, welcome in. Yeah, we're going to get started in about 30 seconds here. How's my audio levels? Do I sound okay? I've got my wonderful Funko Pop and painter's tape microphone stand, so that seems to be working pretty well. Great, good audio, cool. Yeah, we'll see how well I can type with this thing in front of me, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. All right, let's get it going. Welcome in, everyone. I was so happy to see everybody yesterday, and I'm happy to see you again today. So tonight, my goal is to also, keep answering any questions that you have about working in tech or doing job interviews or that kind of thing. But also, I hope that we can make a little bit of progress on the bank. Those common technical interview questions that you may or may not be asked, but it's still good to have them in your brain and know the answers. And some of the content of these sorts of questions are the sorts of things that we haven't necessarily covered in class, right? Some of these things are like you look at them and you're like, I don't know what that is. But if Leon's put it in here, then obviously it's going to be something that could come up in an interview, and you should have in your back pocket so that you can wow your interviewer. Oh, Booty, you have a coffee chat at 8 p.m. today? That's awesome. Was it somebody you met on Twitter? Banky time. Yeah, yeah. We're going to get into it. And also, another thing we're going to practice as a side effect of doing this is we're also going to practice Googling. Because, not everyone can Google effectively. And when you're working as a dev, it's really useful to know how to Google and how to look for how to pull out the answers to technical questions out of those search results. So hopefully we'll get to do a little bit of that tonight as well. Because I mean, just looking at the bank, like we're gonna do this live. We're doing it together, and like I don't know the answers to all these questions. Some of that stuff I'm like I don't know that word, and so we're gonna figure it out together. Oh, hey, Zeno, welcome. You missed the last Q&A, but you caught the VOD. That's rad. That's why I do those VODs, because I get like, an average of like 1,500 views per VOD. That's 1,500 views per VOD for folks that can't attend live and they catch them later. And I'm so glad that those are available for folks. So yeah, all my streams are available for 60 days on my Twitch channel as VODs. You can do !YouTube to get my YouTube channel, which is where I put my videos before they expire. So, hey, that's awesome, Booty. It sounds like you're prepared. That's so good. Yeah. All right. Well, if anybody has any questions, I'm always open. Feel free to ask at any point. Um, and oh, hey, Nuska, welcome in, welcome in. Yeah, we're just about to get started on the bank. Also, too, I did want to mention my fellow stream team member Varola Fox has also started on the bank. So we're going to kind of be working in tandem here. Let me. There we go. All right. So you should be seeing my screen now. And with the bank on the left and a Chrome window on the right. And we're going incognito because y'all don't get to see my search history. um, but yeah, so Varola has also been hitting up the bank, and she's been kind of doing it like Anki style. So she has some of those questions in Anki already, and then like is going back and review them. So that can be really good as well to review them Anki style and think about the answer and try to remember the answer. Um, Oh, thanks, Brooke. That's so sweet. Are we starting from the top? I haven't looked at Banky yet. Well, that's the question. So I think Varola, and maybe even Rufio too, I'm not sure, has been working on kind of like the HTML and JavaScript questions. I thought we might actually start with CSS because I feel like y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like for a lot of folks, CSS is kind of their weak link. It's the thing that we're heavy in the JavaScript right now, like, right? All those topics are kind of fresh in our minds. Um, and HTML is not terribly difficult to get your head around, and it's at the top of the list, and some other folks might have been covering it already. But I feel like CSS is kind of the weak link for a lot of folks, including me. So I was thinking maybe we would start with the CSS section in the bank. But you guys tell me, what do you think? Hey, Fetvon7, welcome. CSS makes the least sense. Yeah. That's just kind of the vibe that I get. And I mean, for me, yeah, sometimes I'm like, wait, I don't remember how to do anything in CSS when I actually have to style something. Um, it can be kind of difficult. So CSS came the easiest to you. That's awesome. Well, then maybe, as we're working through these questions, if you want to supply, some of your own answers, then you're welcome to. No pressure or anything. But this is going to be kind of like a collaborative sort of effort. And so yeah, if we're going to probably Google every single answer just to practice Googling it and kind of see what the internet says, but also feel free to share your own interpretations. Anybody feel free to share your own interpretations as we go. Zena, I kept failing my LinkedIn JavaScript assessment, but I passed CSS on the first try. Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like JavaScript is also very varied. There's vanilla JavaScript, there's all these different libraries, and so it just depends on what the LinkedIn assessment is looking for, I guess. Okay, well, let's get into it. We'll start with CSS, and then if y'all are like, man, this is boring, I know like the answers to these, then just tell me, and we'll go to another section. We'll go to JavaScript. Just I'm flexible. Like, we can do whatever. It's all good. All right. So the first question here. What is CSS selector specificity and how does it work? Okay, so if I was going to Google this, I would, whenever I'm Googling something that's like a technical question, I try to pick out the keywords in the phrase. And so in this case, I would say that our keywords are right here, CSS selector specificity. So we'll just start Googling that, and then we'll see if we have to add any more specificity to our question. Okay, so here we go. The first thing that comes up is a nice MDM doc. So let's see what's in here. All right, so here it's telling us that specificity is the means by which the browsers decide which CSS property values are the most relevant to an element and will therefore be applied. And specificity is calculated using weights. Determined by the number of each selector type in the matching selector. Okay, so that was like kind of a lot of jargon, right? Some of these pages are super jargon heavy. So let's go back and maybe rephrase this a little bit. So specificity is the way that browsers decide when looking at a list of um, a list of like CSS property values, selectors determine which are the most relevant to a given element. So there's a calculation that goes into this, right? So um, there's a bunch of different selector types. Oh, and also too, we're going to do this using the explanation use example method. So I think that's a really great way when you're in an interview to show that you actually know your stuff. To say like, look, here's what this thing is. Here's how it's used. And here's an example, like a specific application of how this could be applied. Yeah, explain use example. Exactly, Rascal. Yep, that's right. Yeah, it was the EUE, that acronym that I couldn't remember yesterday. Oh, what? Verola, welcome, welcome. Oh my goodness. Hi everyone. Hello. Welcome. How was your stream today, Verola? Did you have a good time? I saw you. I mean, I checked in with you earlier. You've been going for a while. I said hi like toward the start of your stream. Are you still going? Dang. I was just saying, I was like, man, between you and Rufio, I gotta up my game. My little 3 hour streams are chump change. Well, hello, welcome everybody. Foxy Raid, yeah, absolutely. Hello, hello. Yeah, so welcome in. We are looking at the bank, specifically the CSS section of the bank, because I feel like for a lot of folks that's maybe their weak link. But I'm open to suggestions. If you're like, if y'all are like CSS is easy for me, then we can always move on to a different section. But we're gonna get started here, and then we'll see how it goes. How's my Wednesday going? My Wednesday is going great. Actually, something really cool happened like just a couple hours ago, and I'm not going to share it yet, but hopefully I'll be able to share by like next week. It's not like job related or anything like that. I'm like I say, I'm happy in my job, but it's just something cool in general. So, little surprise for y'all maybe next week. We'll see if it's something I can share. But yeah, so I've been having a great day. All right. So let's keep looking at this. So, hey, Verola, while I have you here, did you already cover CSS on your stream? Did you do the CSS section already? So I think for for the explanation section for specificity, I think what we can say is that selector specificity basically determines which CSS elements are applied. Oops. Determine which CSS elements are applied based on the weights of the individual selectors. Like 2%, always good to get more perspective. Okay, great. Yeah, let's keep going with it then. Okay, so I see somebody asking, okay, what's a selector? So let's look down here a little bit farther in the documentation, and we can hopefully figure it out. So selectors. So there's different types of selectors. When we say selector, so in CSS, when you want to attach styling to an HTML tag, you would write it out like like H1 bracket, all your styling stuff, and then a closing bracket, right? Well, that H1 is a selector. So we have like type selectors, class selectors. So if you're wanting to target an HTML class, you have a class selector, and it gives some examples here. like dot example would be a class, like class equals example in an HTML selector. So and then ID selectors, which is when you attach an ID to a particular HTML tag, you can target that ID using like a hashtag example. Hi, Blonde Cat, welcome. Hey, Taco, welcome in. So yeah, that's basically what a selector is. And so that's probably just a really brief explanation, but we can always come back and flesh it further. So how might we use selector specificity? So selector specificity, let's see. So well, here's a good example of how it could be used. So if I show you if I show you some uh, like CSS with like that involves bang important or exclamation point important, what does that do? Does anybody know? What does bang important mean? Thousand. Yeah, right. It adds 1,000 points of specificity. Yeah, it's super important. It basically trumps everything else, right? Um, so thinking about uses. So using selector specificity, basically it helps us um, control. It kind of helps us control uh, which. So here, let's think about this. So when styles have the potential to overlap, um, specificity helps us control which styles are applied to which HTML elements, right? So let's think about this. So this might help us kind of formulate our example. And here I like this. So this basically it tells you what bang important is, and then it basically tells you some better ways you could do things. I'm going to try to keep things from getting behind my webcam here. So making better use of this, so you can get around, you can control that specificity by making use of the CSS cascade, and using more specific rules. So you can indicate one or more elements before the element that you're selecting, and the rule becomes more specific and gets higher priority. So in this case, like what they've done is they have a very small sort of list of styling here, right? So there's some styling on span, which is styled as red. There's some styling on the div. Excuse me. There's some styling on the div, which is given a color of blue. And there's some styling on a specific ID, right? Because we got that little hashtag there, Octothorpe, with a color of green. So what this is doing is it's kind of showing us increasing specificity, right? So we just have this, we have the span, we have the div inside the span, and then we're targeting a specific span here by targeting the ID. And so which one's going to be applied? Well, in this case, the most specific one will get the styling applied to it. And in this case, the most specific one is the one that's targeting the span, the div, and then the trump card is the specific ID within that div. So in this case, even though these are in the opposite order of the cascade, remember the cascade, CSS literally stands for cascading style sheets, right? And so that cascade goes from top to bottom and applies styles, you know, uh, applies styles in the cascade. So each subsequent style could potentially overwrite the one before it. And so in order to control that, we need to use specificity. We need to say, hey, look, no, I mean, I know this color is supposed to, apply to every single div, right? But then I want to target this one specific div in my HTML, and I want to make that a different color. And so that's what specificity can do for us. So Varroa, Octothorpe. Yeah, isn't that a great word? That's like one of my favorite words, along with concatenate. Y'all know I love concatenate. It's just so fun to say. And it's got cat in it. I love cats. Um, yeah, and it sets you're just setting a priority on how to apply the styling. Exactly. That's a great way to phrase it, Carmen. Yep. Yeah. All right. So having said all that, let's think about our example. So in our example, if I was just trying to summarize this for an interview, what I might say is, okay, let's say I have in a on sorry, let me see, on a web page, I could apply styling to every single let's see, p element, sorry, p tag in my HTML, but could use specificity to target individual elements and could use specificity to target individual elements and apply styles to those elements alone. Using classes or IDs that have higher weights or point values or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, Rue says, I found it most useful for buttons and for the nav bar. Absolutely. Yeah. So you can, like, what I like to do is I like to start with my styling very generic, applying just generic styles to my H1, H2, and paragraphs and just kind of set some baselines and then, go in and target after that, then target individual, classes or IDs with the specific styles that I want. So, you start out with everything styled pretty much the same, and then you go in and target the individual items that you want to add more style to. Absolutely. Cat Nation. Darn right. Okay. Oh, this next one is a really good question. If I'm going too fast, feel free to stop me. But I really like this next question. I'm not gonna scroll down just yet. But so what is the difference between resetting and, oh, Oregon Curtis? Thank you for the raid. Wow. Welcome in, folks. Hey, Oregon. Welcome. What were you all doing today in your stream? What do you stream, Oregon? Oregon Raid. Hi. Taco, that's a great question. So when I say generic styles, am I saying default styles? Not necessarily. I'm talking more about, like, let's say that I know on my web page, I want, if I have a paragraph, like if I have text in a paragraph, let's say I want all that text to be blue. Well, then in my CSS, I would just, type P bracket and then have, color blue, text color blue. But let's say I maybe wanted to call out like a certain paragraph and make that one a different color. So the first thing I would do is I would just style all my paragraphs to be blue. And then I would give that one specific paragraph that I wanted to be a different color, I would give that an ID, a specific ID. And then then that would give it greater specificity, and it would mean that I could target that paragraph specifically. So, and maybe probably not everybody does it that way, but that's kind of how I do my styling. Start general and then move into make things more specific as you go. Okay, Oregon, I'm sorry if you replied, I didn't see your oh, you were doing Figma. Oh, and you're in 100 devs too. That's so cool. So you're working on your 100 hours project? Oh, you're working on your client site. Man, that's awesome. Getting clients. Yeah, the CSS chunks are called declaration blocks. Yeah, that's another good thing to remember. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. But that was a great question that you had about generic versus generic versus default. Yeah. Okay, so what is the difference between resetting and normalizing CSS? Which would you choose and why? Yeah, and this was the thing that I wasn't even really sure about for a while is, Leon in most of Leon's templates, right? Especially early on, he would give us both normalize and reset as options to use. Um, and so for a while, like I don't know which one is which, right? What's the difference? They both have different stuff in them. Um, Oh, hey, Amethyst, welcome. Hey, yeah, we are having a good day. Absolutely. King, I mean, I don't know for sure. But since it's in the bank, I'm gonna say that it's probably something that Leon has encountered. So I think it's important not to discount it. It's just why we're gonna get CSS done, knock it out of the park, and then we'll probably move on to JavaScript or HTML if y'all want. Okay, so resetting versus normalizing. So let's Google it. Versus normalize CSS. Okay, here we go. We got a nice article that pulls up right away. That's hopefully going to tell us the answer. Maybe, if it'll load. Oh, there we go. That took a minute. And now what's cool is, Google even now will highlight like the relevant part of the page. So it brings you to the page and then even highlights what it thinks is the answer, which I think is pretty cool. So here we go. Normalizing maintains useful defaults over non-stylizing everything, and it won't clutter your DevTools window. Moreover, resetting, whoop, stupid. No, I don't want to join your newsletter. Moreover, resetting is meant to strip all default browser styling on elements. For example, margins, paddings, font sizes of all elements are reset to be the same. Okay. So yeah, they're telling us that there definitely is a distinction here. You will have to redeclare styling for common typographic elements. On the other hand, normalizing preserves useful default styles rather than stripping all styles from everything. Normalizing CSS is a newer technology than the old resetting CSS, so it is modular and easy to use. Okay, so this is really great. That was a really great summary. Now we need to think about how to kind of put it into our own words, right? Um, so all right. So an explanation. Resetting essentially strips the styling, the default styling from all CSS elements and sets, essentially it sets everything to look the same, um, regardless of browser. Um, I don't know if I should say regardless of browser because that's kind of similar to normalize, right? Normalize is essentially making things look the same across browsers. So it doesn't remove the styling. So maybe it's best to think about this one from an example perspective first. So thinking about like let's say an H1 versus an H2, right? You know that by default, if you just write HTML, when you load that page in your browser, the H1 is going to be big and the H2 is going to be still big, but slightly smaller. Um, and so in the case of normalize, what that's doing is it's essentially saying, all right, I'm going to standardize the appearance of this H1 and H2 no matter what browser you're using. So it'll look the same on all platforms versus resetting is like, nope, the H1, all the styling is going to be stripped off of the H1 and the H2. And when you load them as a page, they're going to be the same size and you're not going to be able to visually tell the difference between that H1 and that H2. Um, hey, Ekechi, welcome. Oh, pink. Yeah. So you weren't here yesterday. I do. I have a new setup. So I have a whole new computer, a whole new monitor. I'm in a different room. There's the mysterious doorway behind me. That's new. Who knows where that goes, right? It's a mystery. And yeah, I'm standing now. I have a standing desk. So yeah, trying to keep from sitting for like 12 hours a day, which we'll see how well that goes. But it's been going pretty good so far. Yeah, yeah, I do. I got an RTX 3070 in this baby. I got a tower now instead of a janky laptop with ridiculous fans. So yeah, it's good. Um, okay, yeah, and good discussion about some wireframes in there. So if you still haven't done your wireframe yet, then yeah, maybe pay attention to what chat's saying about wireframes right now, because Leon recommends Figma, but I'm sure there's other options out there. um, okay, so with that basic explanation of whereas resetting is kind of just like a tactical nuke, right? It's just blowing away all the styling and making everything look the same, versus normalizing is more about just making it look consistent, right? It's not about having no styling, it's about having consistent styling. Um, so resetting strips while makes everything look the same, while normalize makes everything look consistent. Going to use some italics there. No matter the browser. Yeah. So a potential use of a potential use of resetting might be, let's think about that. So let's think about if you want to really build like a web page or app from scratch, and you kind of have like a style in mind of like, hey, I want everything to look a certain way, and I want to be able to use tags like h1, h2, h3, maybe less for like emphasis as far as like H1 is going to be biggest, H2 is going to be slightly smaller. Maybe it's more like you want to use them for just emphasis in the general sense versus not size wise, but just like for screen readers or for accessibility reasons. Whereas they might visually look the same. So resetting could be good for styling a page from scratch, while normalizing. Whereas normalizing could probably be good for if you just want to ensure a consistent experience, right? And I think normalizing too, normalizing could probably be good for also like maybe being more granular as far as like the type of adjustments that you want to make, versus just blowing away all the styling. Instead it could be like, well, I want my h1 and my h2 to to have that default styling, but I want to make a change to how h3 is styled. And so you could normalize seems like it might be a little bit easier to manipulate at a more granular level. Hey, thanks for dropping some knowledge there, Oregon, on the frame styling. Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely check them out. Here, chat let's see if that works. There you go. There's a link to Oregon's channel as well. Okay, so while normalizing is good for delivering a consistent experience to the user while allowing for customization of defaults. That's what I might say to answer this question. Oh, and that's behind my chat. Sorry, you can't see it. There we go. No problem, Oregon. Happy to do it. I finally got my little bot commands set up, so just got to remember to use them. So like my shout outs and YouTube and Twitch, or sorry, and Twitter, those all work. Somebody dropping dollars like with Magic City. Hey, I've been wanting a new computer for like 2 years now, and with like prices the way they are on like components and stuff, this is the first time where I've been actually felt like I could, not break the bank and still get a decent gaming computer. So, and watch me eat those words when the crypto crash makes graphics card prices go down even more. But I just didn't want to wait anymore. So Nick, yeah, good question. If we look at this, so if we look at the web page here, we could say, well, normalizing maintains useful defaults. So it maintains styling defaults, and it creates sort of a consistent experience across browsers. While reset, blows everything away. So it just depends on your use case. I think I wouldn't say that maybe I prefer one or the other, but I think it's important to know the difference so that you can know when to use one or the other. So let's think about like an example. So if I'm making a web page and I want full stylistic control. So I want to make sure that there's going to be no default margins that are going to get in my way, or that I won't be surprised by a giant header in the middle of my beautifully styled page. Then I'll probably use reset just to get rid of all those. If I already have like a firm idea in mind, if I want my page to look like this and I know how to do it, then I'd probably just use reset to blow away the defaults and add all the styling myself. I'd use reset to get rid of the defaults and apply my own styles to each element. However, if I wanted to leverage the default styles to make my page easier to design, then I'd use normalize and add styles on top. So that's an example of, that's probably how I would answer that question. Yeah, and strain, that's a really good point. So strain says, personally, I prefer reset most of the time because I know if there's something interacting to cause an overflow or something. I know it's something that I did rather than a weird margin or something that's from the defaults. Yeah, that's a really good point. So sometimes the defaults are gonna like cause strange interactions, especially like margins or padding. Um, like for like a default margin around an H1, that could cause problems sometimes if your text isn't sitting the way you think it is. So yeah, that's a really good point. What was the question? Are these interview questions available on the shared Google? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Varol. Much appreciated. Yeah, these are the, and also too, if anybody else doesn't have this, you can go to Leon's Twitch channel. So go to his Twitch, like the channel that we take all of our lessons on, right? And click on his chat. And I know he's not streaming, but you can still get into the chat and just type !bank. So go into his chat, type !bank, and you'll get a direct link to the file, to the Google Drive. So if anybody else wants to get it that way, you absolutely can. Chemo Wrath says, I'm team reset as well. Makes sense to me. Yeah, it just, for me anyway, it just depends on what I'm doing, right? Like if I just want to like whip up a quick web page and not have to think about it too hard, just do minimal styling, then I'll probably just do normalize, because I want to take advantage of like the fact that H1 is going to be bigger than H2. And like, that's my default. But also I am not a designer, as you've probably seen on some of my past projects. I don't understand color. I'm not a design. I'm a back end developer. I don't know how to make things look pretty. Nothing that I make looks pretty. So that's probably why I'm kind of more normalized, just because it does some of the hard work for me. Can't wait for back end CSS hurt me. Hey, to each their own, right? I've seen some folks on the Discord who are wonderful designers and they do crazy things with CSS, and I'm just like, can't do that. Oh, you're red green colorblind. Yeah, that is rough. Yeah. It just makes, yeah, it makes things look different than expected, right? Back in CSS. Oh no, please no, Rascal. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Unless anybody has any more questions on resetting versus normalize. And for those of you who haven't been to my streams before, we'll take a break around 8 o'clock. We try to take a break around once per hour. Otherwise, I would keep talking forever and nobody would ever get a break. So I force myself to do breaks once an hour. So that's what we're going to do. All right. Come on. There we go. Give me my bullets. There we go. Okay. Cannot tell you the amount of CSS induced mental breakdowns I've had. Oh no. Well, that's why it's important to do these bank questions, right? So we're going to get them in your brain early. And so that way they have a lot of time to like marinate and settle in your brain. And so that way when you get asked something about CSS in an interview, you can just be like, I got this. The floats question, yeah. Describe floats and how they work. Okay, I think we've all used floats, right? So we kind of have an understanding of how to apply them. But let's Google it anyway. We're going to go ahead and Google, and we're going to say, and in this case, we're going to say, what are CSS floats? Okay, so again, it brings us to the MDN. And it essentially says, so the MDN tells us the float CSS property places an element on the left or right side of its container, allowing text and inline elements to wrap around it. The element is removed from the normal flow of the page while still remaining a part of the flow. Okay, it's a little confusing, right? But luckily the MDN does give us like some examples of things we can try. So in this case, float is none here for this element. So you can see that it's sitting in the top left, and the text is sitting below it. So it's taking up an entire like row by itself, right? Let's float it left. Okay, now look, the text has moved up beside of it. It's lost its inline status, right? It's now enmeshed inside of the text. And let's go ahead and float right as well. So same deal. It's enmeshed inside the text, but now it's gone it's far up and as far right as it possibly can. And there's there's several different types of like display, like ways we can make this display, right? But let's not think about that right now. Let's be fairly general with this. So let's look at this definition again. The float CSS property places the element on the left or right side of its container. Okay, so let's pause there. The float property places an element on the left or right side of its container. And I think that's an important consideration. So when you just have a basic web page and you apply a float to an element on that page, you have to think that the page itself is actually like the body, your body of your page is actually like, I'm gonna turn, there we go. The body of your page is actually like a container in itself, right? And so that element is going to move, to the top left or top right of your page, depending on how you floated it. But let's say that I then have, so I have my big square on my page, and then I want to put a smaller square inside of that, and I want that smaller square to go to the top left of of the larger square. So if I'm nesting squares, and so I can do that by floating it. So and when I do that, what it's going to do is it's not going to leave its container. It's just going to go to the top left or top right of its container. So if y'all have seen my stream, it's one of my very first streams on floats. Floats are always going to want to try to go to the top left or top right of whatever HTML element they are sitting in. And so you can control where floats sit on the page by nesting your sections or your divs or whatever, by nesting them inside of each other and creating cages or containers for them. Yeah, Swine, I really like that. So Swine says, I think of them floating like a balloon. They always try to end up in the corner, right? They're going to go up to the ceiling and they're going to end up in the corner. So if you want to keep them contained, you know, you got to put a box over top of them, like, a upside down cardboard box to keep it from floating up to the ceiling. And so, yeah, that's kind of what floats do. And so why do we use floats? Well, it helps us arrange our it helps us arrange basically our elements on the page in a logical way. It helps us put our boxes, put our page elements in the right order on the page, by using floats strategically. All right, I'm scrolling. Taco says, "Do I do this all day?" No, no. I have a day job. I'm a SQL developer by day, and then I do streaming a couple times a week. Yeah, we're all gonna be stone cold interview killers by the time we're done. Heck yes. Pink Star says, I like floats, but I just got to Flexbox. Oh, that's awesome." Zena says, I'm just going to insert a picture of Pennywise for this question and I'll know what to say. Yeah, exactly. Having a mnemonic device or like a memory device to help trigger the memories for these questions. So like you could put a balloon for on the floats question, you could put a balloon and you might see it and you might say, wait, why is there a balloon here? Oh yeah, because floats work like a balloon. They go up and to the left or right, depending on which way you tell them to go. Oh, Chanpo, I'm so sorry. I forgot to turn on captions. My bad. Let me do that real quick. I apologize. I didn't get my reminders. My caption tool didn't remind me. It normally does. Also, too, when I got this new computer, I had to literally set up I had to completely reconfigure like all my stream settings. So I apologize if I missed anything. Um, close I had to redo everything. All right, captions are going to get started here in just 1 second. Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. I accidentally opened it in an incognito window. Hang on. 2 seconds. All right, captions are theoretically starting. Come on. Are they going? Because I don't see them coming up yet. So let me know when you got captions. Chemo asked, do people still use floats at all? Or is it all Flexbox now? That's a really good question. Flexbox and Grid are obviously more modern, right? But what Leon has said is that, you get a lot of legacy code. That still, like, because a lot of being a developer is going to involve maintaining code that people have already written, just because you're not going to code everything from scratch. And so that stuff may involve floats and you're going to have to know how to maintain it. Yeah. Champo, are the captions working now? I honestly can't tell. I don't know that they are. So we need to learn how to turn the floats into Flexbox. Okay, well, it's sometime go to the BBC homepage. No, that's okay, Champo. I don't know that's working for me. I'm gonna try it again. Um, Go to the BBC homepage and do an inspect, and you'll see that the whole top part of their homepage runs on floats, while the bottom part runs on Flexbox. Posture check. Oh, thanks. Yep. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna try to save that. I'm gonna try again. I don't know why it's not working. Oh, you know what? I bet I have to reinstall it. Yeah, because I had to reinstall Twitch Studio on this computer. But I think I used captions yesterday. So I don't know. I'll troubleshoot it during the break if that's okay, Champo. We got about 15 minutes before the break, and I'll do some troubleshooting then. Oh, they work for you now? Oh, good. Okay, Champo, you might have to enable them too. Um, you might have to, make sure that the extension is turned on. Oh, good. Okay, so CC, the closed caption is working. Okay, good, good. Thank you for confirming, folks. All right, so let's. I talked a lot, but let's actually write down an answer for this question. Where can we find this Google sheet? Somebody dropped a link for it earlier. I'll grab it. Maybe there we go. Okay, I think Verola, the wonderful Verola Fox, dropped a link a little higher up in chat, and I've just found it, and I will paste it again for you. Oh, Rascal's too quick for me, as always. The wonderful Rascal. All right. Rascal, be on it. That's right, always. Okay, let's write down the answer for this. All right, so let's describe floats. All right, so floats are a CSS property that allows us to arrange elements on the top in the top left or right of their container. This allows us to visually format the arrangement of HTML. Let's say the arrangement of all the elements on our page in the order and position that we want. And this is also this is I'm kind of combining things here. I'm kind of combining the explanation and the use, right? Um, so for example, I could create a gallery of images using image tags in my HTML, then using left and right floats combined with CSS padding to turn them into a grid pattern. So that's what I might say for this. I did, for my first example, I did combine the explanation and use, but I still think it's valid. Fastest hand in the West. Yeah, so that's how I might answer that. Because and sometimes it's kind of surprisingly hard, right? Like we've used floats a ton, but if you actually have to sit down and like literally explain them, that can actually be a little hard. You actually have to think about like, okay, wait, like I've used floats a bunch, but like what actually is it and how does it really behave? So it's good to articulate this stuff and get good at articulating it, and specific examples of how you might use it before you get asked that in an interview and have to think on the fly. Yeah. So, any more questions on this before we move on? We're going kind of fast, I know. So feel free to ask me to slow down or explain, things again, or if you think I've said something wrong, or if I'm misstating something. I definitely I mess up a lot too. So, and messing up, as they say, the best way to get the correct answer on the internet is to say something that's incorrect, right? So, I'm also willing to do that. Oh, we gotta hydrate. Okay, I'm almost out of water. I have water tonight. Yeah, forcing to explain these concepts, answering cards, Anki, and prep forces you to really know the ins and outs of the thing rather than knowing just how to use it. Exactly. And that's partially why I stream, because I got to explain stuff to you guys. So that means I actually got to know what I'm talking about versus just, applying the thing. Aw, thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. Rue says, with Flex and Grid, floats are probably most useful to wrap around images. Yeah, that's true. There are better options for doing general like arrangement of web pages. But yeah, I have seen floats applied quite a bit as, you know, just specifically for images, allowing for that text wrap, like, in a news article or something, allowing the text to wrap dynamically around the edges of the image. Because people on the internet have to tell you that you're wrong. Absolutely. So you got to learn to use it for your advantage because it's going to happen regardless. Okay, this next question is interesting. So, describe Z index and how stacking context is formed. Okay, so this one is like I don't think we really talked about this in class, right? So we'll do this question, then we'll probably take a break. I think this is a good one. So let's Google it. All right, so CSS Z Index stacking content. Again, when we Google, we're just looking for keywords. And notice how I'm starting out my Google phrase with the word CSS because I don't want like I'm sure stacking sorry, not content, context. um the words, these other words here, Z index, stacking, and context, are very common, right? They're used in a bunch of different contexts. And so in order for Google to know what we're trying to look for, we got to be specific in the way we start our query. And so if I'm searching for something JavaScript related, I literally always start my query with JS, the letters JS. And so since we're looking for CSS here, I'm going to say CSS at the start of my Google query. That'll help narrow it down from the jump. So let's see what we get. Hey, check it out. So I'm going to go with the second result here because it specifies both Z index and stacking content, but let's see what we get. Many of the topics. So the way this works is, let's go find out together. To the MDN. Yeah. I don't know. I don't mind learning together. I definitely don't know everything. So it's good. Sometimes it's good to just learn as you go. Hopefully I never get this question. Hey, that's why we're practicing though. By the time we've been through this whole bank and you're practicing it every single day, you're going to know these inside and out. Yeah, Pink Star says, I learned that the hard way. Not putting the language in Google had me down the wrong rabbit hole a few times. Yeah, you got to be so you can be generic in your searched keywords, in the keywords of the things you're looking for, but try to be specific in the, I'm going to say, context. Try to be specific in the context. So give Google that subject that you're looking for, and then put your keywords after it. Okay, so Z index and stacking contents. In this module, find out how to control the order. Oh, okay, fine, I'll accept your cookies. I'm in incognito mode anyway. Whatever. In this module, try to find out how to control the order in which things layer on top of each other by using Z index in the stacking context. Okay, so that gives us a little context already. It says so it has something to do with how things layer on top of each other. Okay, so say you've got a couple elements that are absolutely positioned and are supposed to be positioned on top of each other. So they're telling, you can nest them. You can nest them inside the HTML. And okay, and but which element sits on top of the other element? So the Z index property explicitly sets a layer order for HTML based on the 3D space of the browser, the Z axis. Okay, so some of you may have heard of, axes before, right? X axis is generally the horizontal axis. And so it depends on whether we're working in 2D or 3D space. In this case, they said 3D. So in this case, X and Y are going to be like the flat plane, whereas Z is the vertical. Z is the up and down. So the Z index property accepts a numerical value, which can be a positive or negative number. Elements will appear above another element if they have a higher Z index value. If no Z index is set on your elements, then the default behavior is that the document source order dictates the Z axis. This means that elements farther down the document sit on top of elements that appear before them. Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. So basically what it's saying is you can assign a Z index property, which could be positive or negative, and you can assign that to individual elements, and that's going to determine what order they appear in. However, if you think about how you normally write things, right? If you want something to appear above something else, you just put your HTML tags higher or lower. You list your HTML tags in order, and that determines what order they stack in your on your web page. But you can force that order using Z index. So Strain says this to me myself. Googling methods that I've used literally hundreds of times on Code Wars. Yeah, me too. I just literally when I'm doing Code Wars, I literally just have like the JS info array methods page like just open on another tab, and I just flip back and forth, and I literally do like a control F, control find, and to try to find the method that I want. Yeah, so overlap. So we're looking at overlapping here, how it stacks. So this demo has 3 empty div elements with negative margin, making them overlap. Okay, so negative margin, if you're using negative margin when you're styling things, that will cause those items to overlap each other. The borders will actually overlap. And so that can be really useful for styling. But if you want to choose how they're actually going to overlap, um, if you want to force that overlap, then you can set their Z index. So we can see what's happening here, right? The box with the 1 is farthest back, the 2 box is in the middle of that sandwich, and the 3 box is in the foreground or at the front. So um, let's look at that and see what they've done here. Okay, so we can see the margin. Oh, and this is this is default. Sorry, this is default. I was like, where's the Z index? No, it's default behavior. Okay, so we can see that they haven't applied. They've applied negative margin, but they haven't applied any Z index to any of this CSS. So that's by default. Now let's look at what happens when they use the Z index. In normal flow, if you set a specific value for Z index and it isn't working, you need to set the element's position value to anything other than static. Okay, well, let's ignore that for now, and let's just see how this is behaving. So in this case, the item in the back has a Z index of 3, the item in the middle has a Z index of 1, and the item at the front has a Z index of 2. So we'll turn on position relative to see what happens. Okay, so you look at what happened there. So it reversed everything. The item with the highest Z index has come to the front. Oops, sorry. The item with the highest Z index has come to the front, to the foreground. The one with the second highest is in the middle now, and the one with the lowest Z index is at the back. Now if we turn that off, it goes back to the way it was, and we turn it back on. Okay, that's a really useful visual. I like that. Jim asks, is it acceptable to always use the Z index? I mean, usually I don't, but I think if you want things to overlap in a certain way, I mean, you'll probably have to, unless you really are careful about that order, right? Because up here they showed how to do it. Um, Up here they showed how do I get back here? Oh, down here. It's down here. Okay. So up here they showed how it looks by default, right? But here when they put things in a different order, they had to use the Z index to get things in the arrangement that they wanted. Okay, so that kind of describes Z index. Now let's see if we can figure out stacking context. Oh, and it is 8 o'clock. So okay. Well, we'll look up the definition of stacking context, and then we'll take a break. Um, So that talks about grid specifically, but let's not get too wrapped up in the specifics just yet. We're looking for general context here. So negative Z index puts something. So negative Z index can move something behind something else, right? And that which makes sense because if you have a negative, it's going to put it below 0 on the Z index. So that's going to help move it behind something else. So I'm following that. And with a Z index of 0, it'll sit on top of the parent. So if you want it to sit behind, you can use a Z index of -1. And now let's look at what stacking context is. A stacking context is a group of elements that have a common parent and move up and down the z-axis together. Okay, so let's look at their HTML and see what they're doing. Okay, so in this case, we have a div with a class of top, and that's got a z index of 1. We have another div inside of it with a class of inner, and that has a z index of 999. And then we have a div with a class of bottom, z index of 2, and a div with a class of inner, also with a z index of 2. So let's see what happens when they use that. So this yellow box here is, oh, and that's behind my webcam, I'm sorry. This yellow box here is inside of its parent. And we can see that even though the yellow box right here has a z index of 999, it's still behind this red box because its parent, the thing that it's inside of, has a z index of 1, whereas this red box has a z index of 2. So it's dependent on the parent's z index. So that's a good context to have too. So stacking context is literally just saying that when you're nesting these elements like this, it will the index in which the z index that it will be displayed at is dependent on the parent to which it belongs to. Yeah. I look at the array method look at the MDN for array methods every single day. Yeah, me too. There's so many to remember. I don't know. Piece of Shoot says, I use it all the time. I assume that you're talking about Z index. When you use before or after elements positioned absolute and want a specific representation in the DOM, you have to use Z index. Yeah. Because you're literally forcing which element belongs in the foreground, which element is in the midground, and which element is in the background. So yeah, I appreciate, for people who are better designers than I am, it's good to have that context in how you use it. I'm not good enough of a designer to think about those kinds of things. But that's why, it's important. We got to have these answers because, this could be, regardless of whether you're good at it, this could still be something that you get asked. Okay. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll figure out how to turn this into a sound bite, because I think we have enough information now to turn this into a sound bite that we can use for our explanation, use, and example. Because when you're trying to find the answers to these questions, I think it's important. I mean, obviously, if I was going to use this, I would definitely be reading this whole page, and I would be figuring out all the different ways to apply this, but just trying to get enough in my brain to formulate an answer and to start lodging that answer in my brain. I think we're not going to go too crazy. I think I've got the basic explanation, and I think I could spin up a basic explanation if I was asked this question in an interview. But then you can always come back and get more in depth with it later. All right, so we've got our basic idea of this. So I'm going to put 5 minutes on the timer. I'm going to go feed my dogs, and then we'll come back to it. And when we get back, we'll actually write down our answer. Okay, let's do 5-minute timer. Oh, gonna reset it. Don't want to cheap you out of your extra seconds here. So, okay, 5 minutes, and I will see you all back here very shortly. All right, folks, we got about a minute left. Come on back. Oh, thanks, folks. I'm glad you're enjoying things so far. Oh, hey, King. Um, if you're wondering what 100 devs is, I think I've got a command for that. So let's do exclamation point Leon, and it's going to display a bunch of information for you. So Leon, if that works. Yeah. So my bot here has just posted a bunch of links that you might find useful. Check out the website, check out Leon's Twitch, and check out our Discord. So if you ever want those, if my fellow chatters, if anybody ever asked about 100 devs, you can just do exclamation point Leon. I just made that text command strain. Yeah. All right. Let's get back to it. Welcome back, everyone. Good to have you back. Thanks for sticking with me. Yeah, I figured that command might be useful for bringing in new folks. Okay, so before the break, we were just talking about Z Index and stacking context. So let's see if we can formulate this into a reasonable answer. All right, so I cannot spell explanation use example. All right, so Z Index describes the position of elements on the page. I'm going to say on the page from the foreground to the background. From the foreground to the background. Elements can be stacked on top of each other in a series of layers. Stacking context occurs when elements are grouped within a parent and move along the Z axis relative to that parent. I think that's a pretty, I didn't have my webcam on. Whoops, sorry. I think that's a pretty concise explanation for all of that text that we just read and all the examples that we just did. But, for piece of shoot, or those of you who are more familiar with this, please feel free to correct me if I've misstated anything or misconstrued anything about what we just read. I'm always open to corrections, and I make a lot of mistakes. So, but what's important is you learn from it, right? All right. So use. So Z index and stacking are useful to force the order in which elements are layered together, layered together and overlap on the page. I don't know, say so. Yeah, and that's we also that's a good point, Rue. So we should also say that elements with larger Z values appear in front of those with smaller values. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Good catch there. Oops, typo. So Z-index and stacking are useful to force the order in which elements are layered together and overlap on the page. I might come back and revise that later. Not sure I fully like that answer yet, but can't think of something better in the moment. Oh, Techno, you took the Amazon OA. Is that like is that like an Amazon exam? Totally bombed it. Oh, that's yeah, that's too bad. But hey, you tried it, right? You shot your shot, and that's awesome that you tried. So an example of this. So again, piece of shoot. Feel free to correct me. I would say that um, if I want to like, what's a good example? So well, how much so for those of you who do use Z Index, what are some concrete examples of the ways that you have used it on web pages? Okay, yeah, and piece of shoot there just shared a Shay Howe article as well. Oh, that's a yeah. So you could like if you want to do like layering a picture as sort of an artistic sort of a like an offset background, maybe behind a paragraph box or something like that. Yeah, you could absolutely do that. And actually, I and that just reminded me where I've seen it used on the government like COVID vaccine ordering website or whatever. They have like these big blocky elements and like they have pictures that are kind of offset from these colored block elements. And they use Z index to force those to overlap and layer on top of each other. So, um, uh, creating a web page where images and uh, images and color blocks overlap to create a stylish, I don't know, to create a stylish look. File folder tabs, yeah. Oh, Z index for a progress bar. That's cool. Um, to create a stylish look, you could probably give it a concrete example too. In this case, what is it? I forget what the website is. That's the COVID vaccine ordering. Sorry, not the vaccine. The testing. The take home COVID tests. I would have to gov test website. So that could be like a concrete example. You say, look, this is how the this government website uses Z index to overlap images and color blocks. Rascal to make things not look bad. Yeah, that's fair. Piece of parallax effect. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna Google that. Parallax effect. Parallax scrolling. Oh, yeah, that's a great example. Yeah. So, parallax, let's look up parallax scrolling. Yeah, that would be a great thing to drop in an interview. Um, let's see an example of it. Um, nope, not that. Wasn't what I was, let's try. Okay, let's try this. Okay, look. So yeah, so there's this element right here. It's a little hard to see, but this element right here is moving in front of the other element and moving in front of the background as you scroll. And okay, and here's an example of layering. So check it out. So the way those the cars are, so that car is in front of the background, but it's behind this sort of the highway barrier layer as well, right? This is a mood, I know. And the train, the same way. The train is in front of this highway barrier, but it's behind like the benches and the trash cans. And so that's an example of using the Z space. We're using the Z space to set, to create the illusion of depth, which I think is really cool. Yeah, it totally. This is a mood. I know. We're vibing. Yeah. Yeah, I dig this. This is awesome. Great example. Okay, so yeah, well, we can put this as an additional, para. I'm not going to spell it right. Parallax effect, creating the illusion of depth. There. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay. I'll take one screensaver, please. Yeah, absolutely. I think you will be good enough to do this one day, Dion. Yeah. I'm just curious. I just want to look. Oh boy. This is a web flow, so they probably use additional tools to make it. But I was just curious to see, if I look at let's pick like, I don't know, let's pick this. Then we look at the styles. Oh, look at this. Z Index right there. I don't know. You probably can't see it very well. Sorry. But yeah, they're using the Z Index to create depth. Yep. So that's awesome. Using that Z Index. I'm sure they're using it on all these elements. Very cool. I do that a lot. I don't know if you do, but I'll be on a web page and I'll just like hit that inspect just to look under the hood and see what they're doing. See how if they did something cool, I want to see how they did it. Proof is in the pudding, or the CSS, exactly. Yeah. Yep, really. Yeah, you're creating a layered effect. You're creating the illusion of depth, of stacking things. Yep. Okay. Let's go on to the next thing. All right. Describe BFC, or block formatting context, and how it works. Ooh, good question. I don't know that. I don't know that phrase. I don't think. Let's see. Nope. CSS block formatting context. What is it? Okay, block formatting context is part of a visual CSS rendering of a web page. It's the region in which the layout of block boxes occurs and in which floats interact with other elements. Interesting. A block formatting context is created by at least one of the following: HTML, floats, absolutely positioned elements, inline blocks. Oh, okay. So we can see, what all these have in common is they're basically they allow things to interact with each other. Things are not, all on separate lines, right? If you have a float, it's going to allow things to sit next to it and, kind of wrap around it. Inline elements are going to do the same. Absolutely positioned elements are going to allow things to flow on top of them and around them and behind them, right? So let's see, maybe they got some examples here. Make float content and alongside content the same height. The following example. See, I thought they were going to give us a visual. Okay, so I think I'm starting to get a feel for what this is, but the MDN is a little dense for me right now. So I'm gonna let's try a different article. Sometimes if you're not clicking with something right away, just I've got the ghost of context, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I'm just going to look for another source. Okay. BFC. Okay, so in the below example, I have a box that contains an image that has been floated to the left and some text. If we have a good amount of text, it wraps around the floated image and the border then runs around the whole lot. That makes sense. That's how floats behave, right? And so we can see that our float has some text that wraps around it. If I remove some of the text, then there's not enough to wrap around the image. And because the float is taken out of the document flow, The border rises up and runs underneath the image to the height of the text. I'm sure you all have probably seen that before, right? Where you get your border, you get borders overlapping when you're trying to get your floats to behave. I know I've done that. This happens because when we float an element, the box that the text is in remains the same width, but is shortened to make space for the floated element. What is shortened to make space for the floated element are the line boxes of the text. This is why backgrounds and borders will appear to run behind our float. Okay. So in order to fix this, you can use ClearFix, which we used before. The other method is to use the overflow property with a value other than the default of visible. Using overflow auto causes the box to contain the float. Okay. The reason overflow works this way is that using any other value other than the initial value of visible creates a block formatting context. And one of the features of a BSC is that it contains floats. Okay. Oh, hello, Rufio. Welcome. Welcome back. Okay, so and this is great. I like this. I like this. All right, so this is like our catchphrase right here for this concept. I think a BFC is a mini layout in your layout. I put a layout in your layout so you can lay out while you lay out. Once an element creates a BFC, everything is contained inside it. So things aren't going to poke out the sides. It's going to contain everything that's inside of it. And create a mini microcosm for a mini microcosm of a layout within inside of our box. So it's going to stop margins from collapsing. And they're showing an example here of, in this case, they have text that's inside of a div element, and there's nothing between the margin of the paragraph element and the margin of the outer div. So the two will collapse and the paragraphs end up flush with the top and the bottom of the box. We don't see any gray above or below the paragraph. So here, yeah. So the outside of the box has no margin. If we make the box a block formatting context, it now contains the paragraphs and their margins so they don't collapse, and we can see the gray background of the container behind the margin. Okay, so we can see the difference between these two, right? So there's no margin here, but then they set the overflow to auto, and now it's created a block formatting context, and the margin is preserved. Okay, so we can see the before and the after. Now let's look at the formatting and see what happened. So in this case, the outer div was given a background color and an inner margin. And the paragraph was given no padding, but outer margins. Okay, so however, without that overflow auto, the box still collapsed in on itself. Interesting. Okay, I see. All right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, when we set the overflow to auto, it read it read the margins that we applied to that were applied to the paragraph, and it forced the box, it forced the gray box to contain those margins. So it created a microcosm. It created a sealed bubble of layout in which the margins are forced to be contained inside the box. It's awesome. Okay. Once again, the BFC is doing this job of containing the things inside it, stopping them from escaping, and poking out of the box. And a BFC can also stop content wrapping floats. Okay. So, oops, sorry. So if in this case we have a floated div with some text around it, but if you set the text to overflow auto, it will now no longer wrap around the float. It's forcing a box. It's forcing a box shape that's going to contain all the text inside of it. Cool. Okay, so I think I've got enough context for this now. So let's see if we can yeah, create an answer for this question. Okay, so in this case, though, so the question was, so the parent element has to create the BFC. It doesn't look like it because look at this. So look at the way they have this structured, right? They have a div of a class of outer, which is the box with the dots. They have a float, so they have the float div here, which is the pink box, and then they have a div with a class of text, which is this box here that contains all the text, right? And so because of the way floats are, right? They can float, and they don't hold their position on the page. So in this case, this floated box is actually kind of floating on top of this individual div while the text wraps around it. But once you add that BFC and set the overflow to auto, it snaps them to it kind of snaps it into a box shape where it contains it excludes the float and contains all the text. That's what appears to be happening. So it doesn't require the parent to create. So this is essentially the way we can create a floated layout with several columns. Floating an item also creates a BFC for that item, and so our columns don't attempt to wrap around each other if the one on the right is taller than the one on the left. Man, I wish I would have known this sooner. So in this case, we can, it's kind of, I think it's pretty much the same example here. Yeah, it's basically the same example. So the text box on the bottom is the one that has overflow applied, and so it forces it into its own. It forces it into its own, like it's like a microcosm. It's like a dome on Mars. It forces it into its own context, excluding everything else other than what it actually contains. Yeah, it makes them one. It makes the item and its content. It makes the item and its contents a singular unit and excludes everything else. Is kind of the vibe that I'm getting. Hey, thanks for coming, Verola. It puts roommates on their own sides of the room. Yeah. It's that tape line that you put, that line of painter's tape that you put down the center of your dorm room when your roommate won't stop digging in your fridge. Yeah. It forces them to be separate. Okay. All right. So explanation use example. Okay. So oh, okay, hang on. There's a new way to create a BFC. Let's see. Display flow root. So maybe newer browsers can use this display flow root property. That's interesting. That might be that. Okay, so this keyword sounds like it might be useful to know. Pritoka. So yeah, I have VODs. So go on my Twitch channel. You can see all my past streams. And then do exclamation point YouTube to get my YouTube channel, and I'll move my streams to YouTube before they expire. Okay. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top here. Sorry about the visual craziness there for a second. All right, and let's get a good summary here. Let's see. Okay, mini layout for your layout. Yeah. All right. Allows you to create a miniature layout element within an individual page element, I'm going to say. Can be created using overflow auto or was it display flow root? Is that it? Should have copied. Display flow root. Oops. Allows you to create a miniature layout element within an individual page element. Excludes other elements on the page that do not belong, that do not reside within the BFC element. And the use could be for, can be used to force column layouts, or prevent margins from collapsing, or to contain floats. Okay. My favorite explanation so far, though, is putting the roommates on both sides of the room. And you could say that, that could be a little cool, like a little joke that you say, interviewers, they talk to a lot of people. They appreciate jokes now and then. Um, so so this page right here has given us a ton of examples, right? So we could pick really any one of these. So let's say I'll say the one. So we'll just use the first one. So if I have a floated element and a block of text, and I want them to, and the text is wrapping around my float, if I want them to sit next to each other as columns, instead, I can turn the text block into a BFC, and it will no longer try to contain the float, right? Because once it's a BFC, it only cares about what it itself contains, and so it's going to sit next to the float instead of kind of around it. Yeah. Oh, Booty, you finished your coffee chat. That's awesome. I'm glad it went well for you. That's so cool. Thanks for coming back and telling us the result. Thank you. Okay, so I feel like this is a decent enough explanation to just kind of like, to get through this question. And also, I really like that this particular article here, because it gave some visual examples. And so, you could list, multiple of these examples. Here's an example of containing a float. Here's an example of stopping a margin from collapsing. And here's an example of preventing a float from wrapping. And I think, knowing this newer method of doing it could be a little bit of a feather in your cap as well. Saying like, yeah, I could do this. I could create a BFC using Overflow Auto, or I could use this brand new display flow root, which is it's supported on newer browsers. No problem, Mavi. That's what the VODs are for. If you got to watch it later, that's totally fine. Yeah, so margin collapsing in this context, let's go back up to that section. In this context, if I give my text a margin, the container, so we can see that the margin is appearing in the middle, right? The text, the two lines of text are respecting the margin top and bottom of 20 pixels. They're respecting it in between themselves, but the box that contains them, that gray box, is not respecting that top and bottom margin, right? Because the margin I'm sorry, the box literally hits the bottom of the text. But as soon as I create a BFC, then it tries to contain everything that's inside of it, right? It's not trying to disrespect those margins. It's now trying to contain them, and it causes the box to be bigger and hold those margins inside of itself. Yeah. Okay. Let's do. I'm gonna try to end around. What's the averagely size? Just ban the word it. That word. So all right, 5 minutes. 5 minutes on the clock. It's 8:41 now. At 8:46, I'll be able to say that word again. Let's see how this goes. But yeah, so I'm gonna try to end around 9:15, 9:30. So we'll see how many more questions we get through, but we're gonna come back to the bank, right? We're not gonna there's a lot here, so we're gonna keep plugging through it. Hey, Rue, no problem. Oh, I said it. I heard it. That's a really hard one, Rabbit. That is a really hard one. Constantly says, for all questions, do we use EUE? I should probably review the last couple classes. Yeah, EUE is really just for like the more technical questions. You can use a different method for behavioral questions. Okay, let's go to the next one. What are the various clearing techniques, and which is appropriate for what context? This one is a very general question. Um, let's see if we Google this and see what comes up. CSS clearing tech. Yeah, I can't spell tech. Oh yeah, there. Tech. No. Okay. Don't make fun of me. Oh, ClearFix. Okay. Yeah, that's one. Also clear element. Clear. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this article right here. Different clearing techniques, CSS for front end interviews. Let's do it. Let's go. Ah, no. Pay course. Boo. But Geeks for Geeks to the rescue. I love Geeks for Geeks. Okay. Yeah, and Piece of Shoot, I think, answered the question here as well. So clear property. The clear property is used to specify which side of floating elements are not allowed to float. Sets the position of the element concerning floating objects. The element can fit horizontally in the space next to another element that is floated. We have to apply the clear property to that element in the same direction as the float, so the element will move down below the floated element. So yeah, we've done this before. When you have some floats and then you want things around the float to not float, then you use clear. So here are our options. We have clear, none, left, right, both, and initial. And then we have some lovely explanations for each of those. Hey, Mew, how are you? I've been going since about 7 p.m. Eastern. Um, so I think you can do uptime, exclamation point uptime to get the timer. Yeah, there you go. So I like this. This shows you like the potential property values and what they are. So all right. So I got one more element. I got one more minute before I can say the word again that I'm not allowed to say. This is really hard. Uh, all right, so none. The default value of the clear property. After using this value, the element will not be pushed left or right. Not be pushed left or right floated elements. Right. This value pushes the element right below the floated elements. Left below, both. Okay, so let's just see how some of these are applied. Oops, sorry. Okay, so in this case, it's showing us the HTML, but not. Oh, the styling is it's in there. Okay, maybe. Okay, so it looks like okay, they're showing us the difference here. Oh, and I can say it again. Good. All right, so the difference here is without clear fix is showing us that this DG element is kind of overlapping the edges of the box. And with clear fix, it is not. It is generally used to float elements where elements are floated to be stacked horizontally. Okay. Check the output. Yeah. Oh, I see the styling now. I was missing the styling earlier. I was like, where is it? Yeah. Okay. So in this case, our image tag is floating to the left with a width of 100, and then the paragraph has a clear on it. So um, that's basically clearing the float after the image. Okay. Let's see. So okay. So in this case, yeah. So in this case, an element is floated to the right, so you can see it's overlapping the box that's behind it. And then what ClearFix does is we're adding it to the containing element so that it automatically contains the floated item. Okay, I still feel like this didn't necessarily. Oh, I see. Okay, I see what it's doing. All right, so in this case, image one has a float of right, image two has a float of also right, and then we're using clear both to clear the floats after both images. Okay. Nick something. Gosh dang it. You're killing me. If you'd have done that just a little later, then I would have overlapped the break and I would have been like, haha. Oh, and I said it. Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard to completely change your speech patterns. Okay, so I think we can. I'm not going to say that I fully grasp, what this is saying and all the nuanced differences, but I still think we can come up with an answer to this question. Okay, so sometimes you just got to know enough to bullcrap your way through something. Okay, so I'm going to say clearing techniques. Gosh, I cannot spell techniques. Ooh. Oh, time and joy. Thank you so much. Thank you for the raid. Man, everybody's raiding everybody tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you folks doing? What have you all been doing tonight? What are y'all up to? All right, so clearing techniques allow you to contain floats using other elements and mix float. I said the word. I'm sorry. I'm not allowed to say A and D right now. That's my lovely viewers have forbidden me from saying the AND word. So call me out if I say it, but it's hard not to. I think I've got like 3 more minutes before. Yeah, 3 more minutes before I can say it again. Just use the Spanish Y. I'll try. Pronounced E. Yeah. Okay. So clearing techniques allow you to contain floats using other elements. E, mix float, and non float elements while. I said it again. Controlling their behavior. Right? Because if you don't clear the float, then you're going to end up with things interacting in unexpected ways. So you got to clear the floats to make sure that things behave the way that you expect. Okay, so use. Well, in the case of this example here, they showed us, using a containing box to contain a floated element. And they used, this is so hard. Piece of shoot gave an example, saving my bacon. In large projects, I would write a utility clearfix class and use them in places where I need it. Overflow hidden might clip children if the children is taller than the parent or is not very ideal. Okay, so child being taller than the parent element. Yeah. Okay. So make sure that floated elements are contained within parents when appropriate, or hey, time. Yeah, the raid worked. Thank you so much for the raid. Much appreciated. What were y'all doing tonight? What were y'all working on? Make sure that floated elements are contained within parents when appropriate, or I think that covers the class. That covers the example of when a parent is taller than the child. Yeah. So I'm going to say that for now. This may be something that you come back to, and I think I'm okay to say "and" again. This may be something that you come back to and add more context to later. But for now, that's about my level of understanding. Your computer died, so you just yeeted chat over here. I imagine it's like throwing people into a lifeboat when the ship is sinking. Just get out of here, go save yourselves. Go find someone else to watch. Oh, I'm so sorry that your computer died. I hope it's okay. So yeah, an example. I'm gonna shamelessly steal what Piece of Shoot said there. So if I am using overflow hidden and a child object is taller than its parent, I can use clearfix to make sure the parent will contain the child. Yeah. Okay. So clearing techniques, I think you could probably go up here and grab these values. Clear, left, right, both, and initial. So I'm actually just going to grab this right here and drop it in. Oops. Yeah, it's not going to let me paste. That's fun. All right, let's try this. There we go. Yeah. So, and you can kind of just like remember those, and you could probably reel them off pretty easy. Oh, Mavi says, I have a very Anki friendly sum up on float clearing and containing pinned on my Twitter if any of you guys want it. Yeah. Is that your Twitter handle, Mavi? Okay, let's do one more question and then we'll have one more break. And then we'll come back and we'll do like another half an hour and then we'll wrap up for the day. Okay, let's look at sprites. I think Leon touched on this a little bit in class. Okay, so yeah, check out Mavi Sunshine on Twitter. If they said they have a very friendly summary of. Well, let's look at that real quick. Let's see. Explore. Oops, I didn't spell it right. There, and then I'll search for Mavi Sunshine. Ooh, nice. Oh, clear. Look at that. Look at. They have a whole summary of this. So, they all the various clear properties. That's rad. Thank you, Mavi. Yeah. So I'm going to come back and read this later and get a better understanding. And y'all should read it too, and improve your answer as well. Okay, we're going to go on to the next question for now, but I really like this. This is really cool. Thank you. Here, I'll drop the link. Boop. There you go. It's in chat. Feel free to look at it at your own discretion. And it's there, the pinned tweet at the top of their Twitter. Thanks, Mavi. Okay, let's look at sprites. CSS sprites. Image sprites. Okay. Yeah, so, okay, great, concise explanation right here at the top. An image sprite is a collection of images put into a single image. Okay, perfect. Perfect definition. I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. I like that. Whoops, sprite is a web page with many images can take a long time to load and generate multiple server requests. Using image sprites will reduce the number of server requests and save bandwidth. Okay. And you can control what part of the sprite is displayed using CSS. Interesting. Okay, so in this case, they have this larger image here with a house and two arrows, and they are displaying the appropriate image. Here, let's try it. So in this case, what ends up being displayed is the image with the home ID and the arrow with the next ID. Oh, very cool. So in this case, because we can see that the home was given an ID of home, and the next was given an ID of next. Very cool. And look, check this out. So the way they chop this larger image up is using the background property, accessing the image, and then choosing like basically the coordinates of the coordinates where to start, and then the width and height of the section to display. So I think that's what Leon said. I think that's what Amazon does. They load one big image and then they chop it up into little ones. Yeah, background position. So the coordinates of the position coordinates of the background, and then the background size. So you're choosing you're choosing the chopped part of the image to display. Yeah, that's very cool. Okay, so use. Let's see. Reduces the number of hits to the server, can help the page load faster and reduce bandwidth because it only has to load one image instead of many. And so an example could be that maybe you have, like, let's say you have like a bunch of different types of buttons or something like that. You could load them all as one image and then choose the quadrant of the image that you want to display to show the image of like the button that you want. Like a cookie cutter. Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah. Um, one image with multiple, let's say, we'll just say like navigation icons, and using the background position, and hard coding height and width to only return the appropriate area of the larger image that contains the icon you want to display. Yeah. I really like, so like a like a cookie cutter. Yeah, I like that. That's very cool. Okay, it's break time. We're gonna take a break for 5 minutes, and we're gonna come back. We're gonna do a little bit more, and then we're gonna end. Maybe a little earlier than I normally do, but I mentioned yesterday, for my day job, I'm actually on call this week. So tomorrow I have to get up at pretty early, we'll say, and check on a job and release a scheduled automated job that is very important for my work. So I do have to get up early tomorrow, so I'm going to try to go to bed at a somewhat decent hour tonight. Doesn't always happen, but I kind of has to happen today. So all right, I'm gonna put 5 minutes on the clock, and we'll come back. Layla playing the end early, yeah. I got a hard stop. We talked yesterday about the phrase hard stop, right? How that's like jargon that most people actually respect, like business jargon that most people actually respect, is when you go into a meeting and you say I got a hard stop, that means you're bouncing at whatever time you say. So that's what I'm doing. I got a hard stop at 9:30. Okay. All right. So I will see you in 5 minutes. I'm going to get some more to drink because I'm slamming down the waters today. And I will see you back here shortly. Hard stop, slamming on the brakes. Yeah, exactly. Okay. See you shortly. Okie doke. Come on back, folks. Welcome back. Welcome back. We're going to slam out one or two more of these before we end. There's a lot, I don't know if y'all have looked at this whole thing, but there's a lot here. So it's best to get started now and, tackle the bank in easy to digest, sort of sections. Because this is not something that you're going to want to put off until the last minute, because that means you're not going to be able to memorize these answers and you won't know them when you get into an interview. So go ahead and stop the timer before it beeps at you. All right, so excuse me, I need to sneeze. One moment. Okay, sneeze complete. And webcam back on. Okay. Whew. All right. So I just got Windows 11 and it's got like this weird like sidebar thing that keeps trying to pop up and it's like super annoying. Other than that, I like Windows 11. But other than the stupid sidebar. Go away, sidebar. Okay. All right. Mavi Sunshine reading hydrate. Believe me, I did hydrate during the break. I drank like a whole glass of water. So you're gonna have to trust me on that one. Jim says I looked at the previous docs link. I do not see the live updates. Yeah, so I'm doing these questions with you, but I'm not going to be sharing this doc. This is on my personal drive because these are the way I would answer the questions. They're not the way that you're going to answer the questions. So it's not going to be natural to you. You're welcome to use the concepts and like the general ideas that I'm laying down, but I wouldn't copy what I'm saying directly. I would put it in your own words and look up your own definitions for these things. I mean, you're welcome to go back through the VOD and like, and grab my stuff, but it's not something that I'm going to share because then folks will just copy it and that's not going to be something that's going to stick in your brain. Right. So, and yeah, Vero may be pinning theirs and that's totally fine. It's, it's a personal decision. My personal thought is that you're not going to learn it if you just copy it off of me. But hey, it's up to you. It's your path, right? You do what works for you. Crispy says, yeah, it's pretty swanky. There's a way to disable that sidebar. Yeah, I hope so. Am I answering questions with the same format? No. So for the non-behavioral questions, so like these are the technical questions, we're using EUE, which is explanation, use, and example. Those three things. Yeah, and the VODs will be available. The VODs will be available for 60 days on Twitch. And then before they expire, I move them to YouTube. So exclamation point YouTube to get my YouTube channel. And the Discord, Jim, here, Discord is, if you want to join our Discord, you can. The link is right there. And the Twitch is for Leon, the guy that's, leading the course that we're in. The Discord is for our our Discord where all this stuff is. Yeah, Rascal, I should shorten that link. You're right. It's a better link. But yeah, and then exclamation point YouTube will give you my YouTube channel. So that's my YouTube channel where all my older stuff is. All right, Alec, thanks for coming. Appreciate having you here. And I appreciated the raids too, man. Like, was that like 3 raids? It's ridiculous. It's amazing. Thank you so much. All right, let's do another one here. We still got time. We got time for at least one more. Oh, stretch. Okay. Yeah. Now that I'm standing, I have much better posture. When I was sitting down, I was hunching like crazy. Now my posture's a lot better now that I've got a standing desk. So, okay. So the next question is more of like a kind of a thought exercise. How would you approach fixing browser specific styling issues? I actually like this one because this draws on something that we already talked about, right? So what do you guys think? How should we approach fixing browser-specific styling issues. What's one way we could do it? Oh man, I should have said piece of shoot isn't allowed to answer this one. But a good answer. Yeah, good answer. Yep. That's a wonderful answer, piece of shoot. Yeah, because piece of shoot says reset or normalize. Um, use the browser specific CSS properties, um, or bootstrap, Sass or bootstrap. Yeah, but like we already talked about, what normalize can do for you is make sure that HTML elements display the same no matter what browser you're using. Or if you want to just go scorched earth, you could use reset and basically remove all that default formatting so that you can apply all your own formatting and make sure that things look consistent. Yeah. Kitrovin says, depends on the issue, but I usually just avoid Edge. Well, yeah, I mean, but think about something like Internet Explorer 6, like because there's still people out there that are using Internet Explorer from 10 years ago, right? And who knows how that's going to behave? And so you can use normalize or reset to try to level the playing field, no matter what browser you're on. Edge now, yes. And if you didn't know, recently Edge was moved to the Chromium backend, so it uses the same platform that Chrome does now. It didn't used to. It used to be a homegrown platform from Microsoft, but now recently, like I don't know, within the past year or two, right? It has transitioned to the Chromium platform, and so it uses the same base code, sort of code base that Chrome does. Yeah. IE11 is going to get yeeted next month. Thank goodness. Okay. So y'all gave some great answers. So in this case, in this case, I don't think we need the explanation use example. We're just going to kind of just give an answer to the question. So we can say like, could normalize the appearance of elements across browsers by using normalize.css and customizing, I can't spell again, geez, customizing it as needed. Or if you want to eliminate styling all together, you could use reset.css. And then piece of shoot, also said some stuff like, Bootstrap. So I'm not too familiar with Bootstrap, but I'm going to trust you. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a perfectly reasonable answer. Kind of like how Windows 3.1 was heavily based on Amiga Workbench. Yeah, I've heard about Amiga Workbench. It's kind of niche, wasn't it? But I've seen some people test it out. Edge is nice. I use it over Chrome now. Yeah, a lot of folks do. I've actually thought about switching just because of the extra features that Edge has. But all my stuff is on Chrome. Okay. Let's see. I think we got time for another one here. Hey, CHX, how you doing? We are, yeah, we're cooking along here. We've answered several questions. We're focusing on CSS related questions because a lot of folks that can be a little bit of a struggle, including myself. So we're starting with the hard stuff, like the more obscure stuff, the stuff that we haven't focused on as much in class, and then we're gonna keep in future streams. We're gonna keep plowing through the bank and maybe tackling some of the stuff that's more recent to us. Okay, how do you serve your pages for feature-constrained browsers? What techniques or processes could you use? Interesting. Okay, let's Google this and see what we find. Okay. for, I'm just going to search for feature constrained browsers. That's an interesting keyword. Oh, hello. There's a Medium article about it. Check it out. Hello. Gotta love Medium sometimes. Okay, so they give us some examples here. Graceful degradation, the practice of building an application for modern browsers while ensuring it remains functional in older browsers. Progressive enhancement, the practice of building an application for a base level of user experience, but adding, okay, I like this one. The practice of building an application for a base level of user experience, but adding functional enhancements when a browser supports it. See, these actually, these maybe, these, I think this may be somebody putting their banky questions out there. But still, okay, so I like progressive enhancement. So you could say, all right, so for this one, the first thing we're going to say is we could say you could use progressive enhancement, essentially making sure that the base product is still usable with a minimum number of features, and then adding additional features when support is available. So it's kind of like a minimum viable product that Leon was talking about, right? So like when you're doing your $100 project, the first thing that you do is you deliver the minimum working version of the project, and then as you go you layer more features on top as you work on it even more. But the first thing that you want to come up with is the minimum working version of your product. And so this is what you can do to to make sure that it's going to work on a minimal browser. Let's look a little bit more on gosh, these are all like straight up answers. I just want to learn. Oh, here we go. Oh, these are more banky answers. I was hoping to see like articles and stuff on this, but it's just giving me banky answers. uh, but here, okay. So so at support CSS rule. So let's just take this. We're not going to copy this answer. We're going to write our own answer. We're better than we're not just straight up copying, right? We're going to at supports. So let's look up what this at supports tag does. What does this do? Rule. So it lets us specify declarations that depend on a browser's support for one or more specific CSS features. Okay, this is super useful. It's called a feature query. So we can use a feature query to test. So it looks like we can use a feature query to basically test whether or not the browser supports the element that we're trying to apply. So it associates the block of statements with a supports condition. And you can use and, or not to control what happens. Very cool. That's awesome. I didn't know about this. Okay, so use the supports tag in CSS to test whether certain features are supported. Then use rules to determine what elements to apply or not. Nice. Oh, there. Yeah, I like that. Dame tag, is this question CSS only or also JS So in the document that we're looking at, we are in the CSS section of this document. So we're looking at CSS specific questions at the moment. However, in future streams, we are also going to be looking at HTML and JS specific questions. However, we're starting with CSS. Whoa, hang on, guys. Look at this. Look how many questions we've answered. Look at this. Look how far we got. Wow. Go us. We answered a lot of questions. We're doing really good. Yeah, so strain, that's essentially what we're saying here by saying progressive enhancement. So we're offering you're making sure that your base product, the minimum viable product is still functional, right? That you can still navigate around and like that that you can still, click everything you need to click and get to all the pages that you need to get to, even if like features aren't working or you don't have any fancy animations or images aren't loading. You have a minimum viable product, and then you can layer additional features on top, but they're not going to hurt the functionality if they're not there. Yeah, we are on a roll, Pink Star. Absolutely. Yeah, so I think that's a good, that's a good basic answer. Again, you could come back and you could add more to this later. Add additional, techniques and processes as you discover them. But I think it's, we can again, we're going to have a minimum viable product, right? We're going to have our minimum, we're going to have our basic answer. It's something that you can start memorizing and start thinking about. And then you can always come back and elaborate on it later. You don't have to have like 2 paragraphs when you're just starting out, right? You can start working on this, memorizing it, and then come back and add more later if you want. Build upon, exactly, piece of shoot. Yeah. All right. Let's do one more and then we'll wrap up. Okay. Next one. What are the different ways to visually hide content and make it available only for screen readers? Ah, nice. Okay. Um, we're just going to Google that. Make content for screen readers. Again, starting the search term with CSS. And here we go. And this is great. So look what we got back for our result. We got a .org address, which means this is probably some kind of like advocate organization for, making websites accessible. Just the URL looks like that. So this should be some pretty informed, informed information about, accessibility for a website. Oh yeah, this one is nice. Yeah. Okay. There are occasional instances where content should be made available to screen reader users but hidden from sighted users. Yeah, exactly. Um, verbose cues or instructions that are only read by screen reader users usually do more harm than good. However, there are a few cases where information or meaning is apparent visually but may not be apparent to screen reader users. Okay. So let's see different ways we can hide content. This actually lists out a bunch of different ways, which is really cool. So we can use display none, visibility hidden. We can use the hidden attribute. We could set width and height to 0 pixels or sizing other things in ways to hide them. We could use a crazy a crazy amount of text indent. That one's kind of funny to me. Um, or you could use absolute positioning to force it off the screen. Piece of shoot says position absolute and go a mile off screen. Yeah. And you can also, so there's also a CSS class um, that is apparently screen reader only, which is pretty cool. Sighted users will not see the hidden content at all. Interesting. Okay. So this is great stuff. I love this. This is really, really, really informative. ARIA. So ARIA attributes. Okay. What are I don't know what those are. Let's see what those are. Accessible rich internet applications. A set of attributes that you can add to HTML elements that define ways to make web content and applications accessible to users with disabilities who use assistive techniques. Interesting. Wow. Okay. There's a lot going on here. So in this case, what I might do is, I might just say like, one way you could do it is using ARIA. I might not go, super in depth just because I don't have any experience with it and I don't really understand it. But I think this sounds like a good thing to learn. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through real quick. Okay, so I might just say for now, I might just say like area attributes, and then also show like some other ways you could do it with not using aria as well. Um, you could use aria attributes. So DameTag says, not sure how an aria attribute would help here as we're looking for a way to show only on screen screen reader, not hide it. Yeah, that's interesting. So um, you might mention aria if you're not sure about the context of the question. That's something you could say like, well, I mean, aria could work, but if you're saying like, only screen readers, then um, or use CSS CSS properties such as hidden attributes. No, that's totally fine, Dan Tag. I'm not familiar with it either, but such as hidden attributes, width and height set to 0, absolute positioning off screen, or a large negative text indent. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable answer. Yeah. No, thank you for the extra context piece of shoot and day tag. You folks that are way better at CSS than I am, much appreciated. I always love when my chat is able to help me out. When my chat's got my back. Okay, well, we did really well here tonight. We got through a lot of questions. I mean, look at all that. That's wild. Look at what we did. And you can always feel free and go back and go through. The VOD will be available as soon as I end this stream. You'll have the whole VOD and you can always scroll through it and review anything that we talked about tonight. And I would highly encourage that you write your own answers to the questions and do your own research to get things into your own words. But you're also you're very welcome to use my answers as a jumping off point and then phrase them in a way that makes sense to you. um, look at my answers, read them, do a little bit more research, get a little bit more context, and hopefully make better answers. I'm just doing all this stuff off the cuff live, right? So I'm sure y'all can, spend 5 minutes on each one and come up with something even better. But yeah, we did really well. And look at that. Look at that. We're almost done with CSS. We almost finished the entire friggin' CSS section. And this is even a shorter stream than I normally do. So we did great. This is awesome. Go us. Good job, guys. Look at that. We only have got like a page. We only got like a less than a page left to do. So I think we could probably wrap this up. Like we'll probably hit it. I don't know. It depends on what we talk about in class on Thursday. Whether we hit this again on Sunday or maybe next Wednesday. I'm not entirely sure. We'll see. I do like to mix things up a little bit and not do the same thing on every stream. So we'll see. It just depends on what we talk about on Thursday. As always, follow me on Twitter, !Twitter, because that's where I always announce my stream topic like several hours ahead of time. So y'all will know what we're covering ahead of time and you know whether or not you want to attend. You made 20 Banky cards yesterday alone. That's awesome. Good start. Yeah, we only have 20 more questions in CSS. Yeah. Pinkstar says, we did great. I'm going to have some ice cream as a treat for my hard work. Absolutely. Now, dang it. Now I want ice cream. I don't have any ice cream. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. Well, how about we still got 140 people here. How about we find somebody to raid and we really make their evening, huh? I'm gonna get. I'm gonna pull it over here, and we'll see if we find somebody. See if we can find somebody that seems interesting. Let's see who's online. As always, if you have any suggestions, um, feel free to suggest someone if you have them. But I'm gonna take a look here. Ah, Patacho. I'm glad you. Yeah, I'm glad you're able to go through this with us. Oh, thanks, Pink. All right, let's start a raid. Let's see who's online. Ooh, okay. Nobody that I follow is online, so I'm going to need a suggestion. Anybody got any suggestions of anybody that we should rate? Should be hopefully some kind of like dev related stream, or at least someone who's, decently, PG or PG-13 rated. Nothing too crazy. No one you follow is online either. Man, nobody's online today. What's going on? All right, I'm just going to go to like the Twitch homepage and Dean Bull. Oh, Dean Bull, thank you so much for the raid. Hey, how's it going? We were actually just wrapping up for the night and looking for somebody else to raid. Thank you for the raid, though. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. Polarin is online. Okay, let's I'm gonna go to the Twitch homepage here, and we'll just look at the category and see. Let's see.
I really think I look like a
stupid homepage auto plays audio. All right. So I'm on the home page, and let's see, how do I go to a category? Oh, Midnight Simon or Stranger. Okay, let's look and see like who they are and what they're about. What do they do? I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit. Okay. Oh, software and game development. Okay. Hey, they're doing something devy. Let's go see what they're doing, huh? All right. Leet code, they're doing leet codes. Okay, well, this might be interesting for those who haven't seen leet code before. If you maybe want to see, you know, see what a leet code is like and what it takes to do one, because we're going to get there eventually with 100 devs, right? We're going to start doing leet codes at some point, and so this might be illuminating. All right, so I'm going to grab them. Oop, I didn't mean to. Hang on, I didn't mean to click. I just wanted to copy their name. All right, there we go. Okay, I'm going to set up the raid. Give me just a second. Midnight Simon. Okay, the raid should be starting shortly. And it looks like everybody is ready to raid. So I think let's rock and roll. And I will see you all in class on Thursday, and then for another stream again on Sunday. So pay attention to my Twitter, and then y'all will see what I'm going to talk about, because I don't know yet. So stay tuned. Watch my Twitter and I'll tell you. All right. Thanks for coming tonight. We had a lot of fun. I'll see you again soon.